Hello.
Hello, and welcome to WBAI's debate series for the 2021 Local Board Delegate Elections, where you will hear from various listener candidates. I am Kate Doran, election specialist at the League of Women Voters of the City of New York, the moderator for this final program segment. The topics to be discussed cover key issues facing WBAI and the Pacifica Foundation. Questions were also submitted directly by WBAI members. Please note that all viewpoints presented are those of the participants and do not reflect the position of the Pacifica Foundation or WBAI. The program will begin with opening statements, followed by a debate covering topics selected from a predetermined list, and it will end with questions from listener members. The order of candidates and the topics has been selected by using a random sequence generator from random.org. This hour, we are joined by Scottye Battle, John Hoffmann, John Brinkley, Benjamin Garron Caine, and Sarah Klepner. Before starting the debate, each candidate will have 1 minute to make an opening statement. Candidates will hear a bell ring and they will know at that time that their time is up. So, all right. So to start us off with a candidate opening statement, we have Scottye Battle. So if you would please unmute yourself, sir, you have 1 minute. Thank you.
I believe I'm unmuted. My name is Scottye Battle. I am a Newark Public Schools teacher in New Jersey. I've been listening to WBAI for the entire 20 years I've been in New Jersey, and before that I did listen to the West Coast station KPFK. I'm not a particularly political person. However, I get all of my political information, a lot of health information, news and inspiration in general from WBAI, and I was actually requested to try to join the board, and I realized that it's time in life to start to participate more than just financially to WBAI. I am enthusiastic. I love the station with all my heart and soul. I share it with pretty much every person I ever meet. I've actually played the station in my classroom with my students. And, I've also experienced the difficulties with listening to conflicts, and I don't know a lot about those problems, but I know that we can all work together to bring the station into the next glory age that it is intended to be. And again, I'm with the Indy slate.
Thank you. Next, we will hear from John Hoffmann. Please unmute yourself, John, and you have 1 minute.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. My name is John Hoffmann, and I also am running on the Indy slate. This is the first time I've run for the board of WBAI, but I have previous board experience in my condo association, and I feel my role or what I can contribute to the board would be to help provide a solid financial foundation, which would allow additional content and more diverse content to flow through to the station. I have worked in finance and budgeting my whole work career. I'm ending my work career within the next year, so I want to kind of bring that experience to a station that I've listened to for my whole life. I grew up in Brooklyn. I still listen today. I contribute regularly, and I'm looking forward to asking for your consideration for my vote.
Thank you. John Brinkley, you are up next.
John. Good afternoon. My name is John Brinkley, and I'm running with the Justice and Unity campaign. I want a strong station with all board members kept informed about station projects and all staff treated fairly and respectfully. When previously on the LSB, I brainstormed and implemented successful fundraising ideas, helped develop a detailed sustainability plan, and was elected chair unanimously and consecutively by a divided board. This year, my work with the People's Organization for Progress made possible the placement of a free WBAI billboard on the New Jersey Turnpike. Our station has too much to offer to remain anyone's secret. Please vote for me and all the Justice and Unity candidates. You're on mute, Kate.
Forgive me. Next, we will hear from Benjamin Garron Caine. You have 1 minute.
Thanks, Kate. My name is Benjamin Garron Caine. I'm a listener to WBAI for the past 10 years, a member for several. I think we fall short on our outreach and our interaction with local communities, and our programming could be a little broader and could be a little more diverse. So that's what I aim to do as a board member, to support the station management in locating the next generation of BAI hosts who can replicate the quality and the diversity and the individuality of the programming we have now. We are a tri-state region of 18 million people, and I certainly think the reservoir is deep, both for new on-air talent and for new listeners to build our membership. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And we'll hear from Sarah Klepner. You have, Sarah, 1 minute, so please unmute yourself.
Thanks. And thank you, Kate, and to the League of Women Voters for your moderation, and greetings to all. So I'm a grassroots event planner and publicist here in Monmouth County, New Jersey. I've also written several successful grants. Professionally, I'm pursuing the alternate route to teaching ESL. So I'm running with Justice and Unity, a group that I first met when I got involved with BAI politics to oppose the firing of Bernard White, the program director, in 2009. Please check out our entire slate at justiceunity.org. Justice and Unity reflects my anti-racist, anti-capitalist, and anti-imperialist orientation, which must be strengthened on our airwaves at this time of heightening social polarization, climate catastrophe, extractive capitalism, and militarism. This is more important than ever.
Thank you. All right, we will now move into the body of the debate. The format consists of assigning one topic to one candidate as determined by the initial random sequence and allowing that candidate 2 minutes to develop an answer. All other candidates following the order defined by the initial random sequence get 30 seconds each to comment or respond. This structure iterates through all candidates until all have had the opportunity to address a topic in depth. Scottye, the first topic is for you. Do you think that those who vote and run in delegate elections and referendums are representative of the listener-sponsored population? And how can we increase participation from the community WBAI serves? Please unmute yourself. You have 2 minutes.
What's the last part of that question?
Yes. How can we increase participation from the community which WBAI serves?
So as I've listened to the former debates, and I believe there is diversity, or at least increasing diversity. There are people of different ethnicities, people of different genders, people from different points of view. The information is accessible to listeners. It's on the website. If you listen to the station, you hear it on the programs. But it could also be broadcast maybe a little more frequently, maybe included in if there's a mailer that goes out. There are maybe other ways that we can expand the potential for more people to become involved in it. But we have to discuss that and be creative with our thinking.
Okay. John Hoffmann, if you would please unmute, you have 30 seconds.
Okay, thank you so much. I think that the station is fairly representative of the communities that it serves. Is it perfectly representative? No, it probably never could be. The opportunity for the station, though, is to become more public facing or more in the public eye and appeal more to other communities, right? This is an opportunity to basically grow the audience, and that can be done a variety of different ways. I feel the most important way to grow an audience is to stabilize the station first.
Thank you. John Brinkley, you have 30 seconds, so if you would please unmute.
Yes, I think that putting the billboard up helped because it allowed people at least to get the numbers and the website. I think we need to do more outreach, attend community functions. I do think that once a person turns on the radio station, that this ongoing on-air fundraising kind of is okay when they first hear it, but after that, again and again, they're gone. They don't want to hear the same thing over and over again. So outreach and better reduction of on-air fundraising.
Thank you, Mr. Brinkley. Next, we'll hear from Benjamin. Unmute yourself, please. 30 seconds.
Yep. Sure. Thank you. I agree with much of what was said. I think the delegates and the current members are representative of WBAI's current listenership. I think there's communities which we haven't tapped, though. Bringing in representatives of this community is critical to ensuring that we keep diversity or we expand diversity and we find new topics to cover on air. So I think, again, it's a matter of outreach. It's a matter of being in touch with local communities.
Thank you. Sarah?
Now, this is a question about the representation of existing members in elections.
Yes. Do you think those who vote and run in delegate elections and referendums are representative of the listener-sponsored population?
Yeah, it's hard for me to answer that question without being on the inside. But I would say in order to increase participation, because I know it is low, so overall the numbers are low. I don't know what the demographics are, but we should rely on existing activist members and listeners, listener members, to contact the members who are less active. Phone calls, online surveys. There's a lot of legwork that needs to be done to involve people.
Thank you. All right. We're moving on to the second topic. John Hoffmann, this is your topic. What are the strengths and weaknesses of WBAI's programming, and should the local station board members be involved in determining programming? Please unmute yourself and you have 2 minutes.
Okay, thank you. I think some of the strengths are very well known. The station appeals to a diverse constituency, and it does a particularly good job of creating programming that meets the needs of, or tries to meet the needs of that constituency. Some of the opportunities, I think, for the station is, again, to kind of establish itself in a more stable environment so that it appeals to other content creators or other points of view over and above what we currently have on the station today. And I think to some degree, the local station board has numerous responsibilities. I've already talked about financial, but also to kind of lay the groundwork so that content providers and quality programming becomes the most important part of WBAI on a regular basis, because I think in turn that will help to grow the audience in the future.
Thank you. John Brinkley, please unmute yourself. You have 30 seconds.
Yeah, I think one main strength is that it does provide access to different communities via the producers. They bring on different folks. I think part of the weakness is that we have sometimes the schedule gets moved around and people don't know how to find the program that they like. And again, we have too much on-air fundraising that wears people out and pushes them away.
Thank you. Benjamin, you're next. Please unmute. You have 30 seconds.
Sure. I also agree that there's too much on-air fundraising, and some of the content, which it seems like is attracting the most donors, is not particularly in line with what the station should be about. I'm not sure how to solve that irony, but again, I think locating new content, communities which aren't currently represented on FM radio to have their representatives represent their viewpoints is critical.
Thank you. Thank you. Sarah, you have 30 seconds. Please unmute.
Yeah, so strengths, I appreciate that we hear from Small World Productions the very distressing information about the developments in the climate. I think that we need to hear more about the situation with the climate catastrophe on planet Earth, and most importantly, how communities can adapt. There is a need, and the board is tasked with doing needs assessments in communities across the listening area. So
thank you. Scottye, you have 30 seconds. Please unmute. Scottye, you have 30 seconds for your comments or response.
It was Tucky. So I believe WBAI is the most diverse station that I've ever listened to, certainly in New York City and anywhere else. I know there are friends of mine who listen to it from abroad via the website. But I think as I look down the list of programs, I mean, I listen to 24 different programs over the time that I've listened, but there may not be as many programs that represent maybe the Latino population in consideration of the number of Latino people in New York City, as I understand it. And I noticed there are almost twice as many news and information programs as music and arts. So, most people that I know of also listen to the radio for inspiration and music. And there are times in the day when I hear nothing but news.
Thank you. Thank you very much. All right, we're going to move on now to our third topic. John Brinkley, this is for you. What is your vision for the future of WBAI and Pacifica as a whole? What types of changes do you see necessary for WBAI and Pacifica to continue in the near future? Please unmute yourself, and you have 2 minutes.
Okay, my vision for the BAI and for Pacifica is for it to be a stronger, stable, media outlet, that it should, and I heard this in the other debates, that it should try to expand into a visual component, and that primarily it needs to ensure its financial stability. I think that a lot of the things, the aspirations that we have are limited because we don't have the financial underpinning. I know the station at BAI, I believe in 2014 or so, got its staff cut down. And now it has Bertol and Linda and a few others trying to do multiple tasks. So in order for us to be a viable station that can meet our aspirations, we need to ensure our financial stability and future. We can then do more outreach to the various communities that we need to outreach to, both here in New Jersey. New Jersey should have more access, and all the diverse communities that are the richness of the culture in this area. So I had proposed that we look at what Democracy Now! Does and has some underwriting that would allow us to have some stability. I think that if we have our attorneys look at the various foundations that provide funds without any restrictions in terms of our content and so on, that can be a bridge so that we can reduce on-air fundraising, increase our listenership, and have to have less reliance on that source of
thank you, Mr.
of funding.
Thank you, Mr. Brinkley. Benjamin, would you please unmute? You have 30 seconds to respond to this question.
Yes, I think WBAI is very high quality content right now. I can't speak on merging into other forms of tech because I'm not a tech enthusiast. I'm not someone knowledgeable of podcasts. I think we definitely need to find our financial footing, and the way I know how to do that is expanding listenership. I think we decades ago had many more listeners, and it was mentioned on the most recent LSB meeting that the sister station in either Berkeley or LA has 33% more listeners than us, and we're in a bigger region. So we need to do outreach. We need to build membership.
Thank you. Thank you. Sarah, you're next. You have 30 seconds, so please unmute.
Yes. Well, you know, the tagline for BAI has been Peace and Justice Radio. You know, to put a few more words behind that, you know, this is a station that is forging a path forward for humanity. And there are many dimensions to that. And while the arts are important and are part of the mission of Pacifica, I do look more at the social, political, and environmental challenges. And I think we want to make a big push in terms of advertising and social media.
Thank you, Sarah. Scottye, you're next. So if you would please unmute, you have 30 seconds.
We need to maintain our strong broadcasting signal, but also, of course, move into the podcasting era. Our website has begun to evolve already. I don't know if you've noticed. There is a link for podcasts, and there are some additions to that link already. So increasing that, spreading our message. We need to see more bumper stickers on people's cars. You know, just the visual, just like the billboard. We need to see the symbol WBAI more, and people, when they tune in, they will plug in to the political, to the peace and justice, as well as to the inspiration.
Thank you. John Hoffmann, if you would please unmute, you have 30 seconds.
Okay, thank you. I agree about the signal being one of the most important things that WBAI offers. In the future, though, technology is certainly something that we should spend more time looking into, not only in terms of different ways to get the communication message out, but to better understand listenership and to better understand the key drivers of our audience. And that will help us in turn to figure out ways to grow that audience. There are many cities outside of the 5 Pacifica network stations that don't have this kind of programming.
Thank you. We're now going to move to the 4th topic. Benjamin, this is for you. What is your understanding of the role that unpaid staff play at WBAI? How do you think they should be represented? Please unmute yourself, and you have 2 minutes.
Well, I think considering our budget issues, unpaid staff are critical. I don't know the levels of current unpaid staff compared to historical, but I think unpaid staff are huge assets. They bring unique forms of knowledge. You know, they might be specialists in music. They might be specialists in a certain type of cultural programming. And of course, they're working for free, so they're valuable assets. They should be treated as such. And I think it's all our job, station management and LSB, to make sure that they have a place and that their work is supported.
Thank you. Hazel, would you please unmute? You have 30 seconds to respond. I think I have the wrong name here. I think I have a wrong name. Let's go with Scottye, and I'll figure this out.
Okay. I believe that the unpaid producers are doing most of the programming. I believe that there's some over 100, maybe 200 producers. Maybe a small number of those are paid. They produce out of their passion, and we can represent them by supporting them in their programming and giving them feedback on the productivity of their program, the listenership of their programs. We should support them in any way that we can and recognize their organizations.
Thank you. Sarah, would you unmute, please? You have 30 seconds to respond to this question about the unpaid staff.
funny, you mentioned Hazel. She's one of my slate mates. And the other night she said something I'm going to quote. She said, unpaid staff are the bread and butter, the nuts and bolts of this station. And it is true. We all appreciate the paid staff, the engineers, they do a great job. But without unpaid staff, there is no BAI. And they must be heard from. It must be a primary goal of the management and the board to hear from the unpaid staff, their concerns, their needs, their suggestions, and with the proper outreach to communities, we can build our unpaid staff.
Thank you. John Hoffman, would you please unmute? And you have 30 seconds to comment on this question.
Yes, thank you. I pretty much agree with everyone that the unpaid staff are essential and they provide the foundation for the sound of the station, and their voices should be heard, and any board member should go out of their way to make sure that they listen to their voices and take that into consideration.
Thank you. Now, John Brinkley, please unmute. You have 30 seconds to comment on this question.
Yeah, the unpaid staff is critical to the success of the station. I think that they should have the similar rights as the paid unionized staff, and that we should raise enough money so that the unpaid could be at some point a paid staff, that they could have at least some compensation for their time.
Thank you. Now we're moving to the fifth and final question. Sarah Klepner, this is your topic. What is your understanding of the financial problems of WBAI and those of Pacifica as a whole? How do you propose to resolve these problems?
Thank you. My understanding of the problem is that the costs are very high, and we are a grassroots network, and our income is not commensurate or to for-profit endeavors. And so one of my suggestions regarding this is, I have a couple. One is that we spend a lot of money on electricity, and I think we should look into setting up solar panels. We don't own our building, but I'm sure there is a way that we can set up a solar panel array and offset the cost of our electricity. This is a fundraising question. So one of my suggestions for fundraising is 1 million hand-powered radios that can be cranked and then run. Radio is the most reliable form of communication because the internet is not reliable, both politically and also electronically. And in times of crisis where the electricity is not on, radio can still work if people have hand-powered radios. And this is this is a sustainability measure in terms of finances, and also can be seen as a sustainability measure in terms of recycling plastic. There's a company here in New Jersey that repurposes plastic that's not otherwise recycled. And 1 million radios can be made from plastic from the ocean. So we can clean up the oceans and make BAI and the people of New York more resilient in terms of our communications.
All right. Scottye, you have 30 seconds if you would unmute and respond.
I think that all producers should put in a plug for the WBAI Buddy if they don't already. Although most people don't have a lot of money these days, I think most listeners of the station would be willing to donate $5. And if all of our listeners that we already have just donate $5 a month, in addition to all of the innovative ideas we have of bringing more listeners in, outreach to listeners directly to ask them, what can we do better? Maybe each board member and even producers can reach out to, 5 of their listeners a month. I mean, we get their information. They would be touched to be more involved with the station if we actually made a more personalized human connection with each, listener that we can.
Thank you. John Hoffman, you now have 30 seconds. Would you unmute, please?
Yes, thank you. I would say the following, that I think WBAI does a tremendous job with the budget and the money that they raise. They do an awful lot with a little bit of money. And so I'm going to kind of go the same direction Sarah went, which is this an audience, and is there a big enough audience contributing enough money so that the station can meet its needs and or expand? And then it becomes more of a fundraising question, which is, are there different ways or different events that can take place to either expand the audience or expand fundraising?
Thank you. John Brinkley, please. You have 30 seconds.
Yeah, I think for a long time, BAI and other stations have dug holes because of high rental rate. But there was light at the end of the tunnel when we were able to get our audits done and now are qualifying for the Corporation for Public Broadcasting grants and other grants. And I think that we need a process of coming up with plans for accessing these grants and other sources of funding, but it can't be haphazard. It needs to be a comprehensive plan.
Benjamin, let's hear from you for 30 seconds. And I think Sarah said she wanted to add something that will be, I'm sure, very brief. So we'll hear from you, Benjamin, next.
Yeah, sure. I think one of our biggest challenges is the fact that we're just radio, and radio's lost popularity to other forms of media. So it's critical that we demonstrate to everyone out there how interesting and how positive our programming is, how different it is to the vortex of bad media that surrounds us. And I think we do that by getting the schedule out, maybe getting bumper stickers out, building membership through tabling at street fairs, all this on the ground stuff that can be a first step towards increased listenership, increased membership.
Thank you, Benjamin. All right, Sarah, very briefly.
Yes, thank you so much. I just would like to add that I think grants can support a bus and subway ad campaign. People are looking for alternative information to the mainstream, and we can let them know that BAI exists with subway and bus ads funded by grants.
Thank you. Thank you all. Now we've come to the portion of the program where listeners can call in and put questions to you all candidates. The number is 212-209-2877. Each caller will have 30 seconds to ask a question, and each candidate will have 30 seconds to respond. And we will take as many questions as the time permits. Let's see if we have a first caller.
Hi there. Hello?
Yes, hello, hello. You're talking to the candidates here.
I know. I wish the moderator was more responsive. You waste a lot of time with the callers. I don't know how you can pay the producers more when there's not enough money now. I'd like to know, what are these lawsuits against BAI about? And then my third suggestion is that spin classes on Atlantic Avenue could be used to have listeners generate electricity. You could have health classes down there, and you can generate electricity by them spinning on the bicycles. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you for your question. Let's start with Benjamin for a 30-second response.
Sure, I recognize that caller, and I suppose I do agree with you. It's hard to it's hard to pay bills if we're not bringing money in. So yes, I agree with that aspect as far as spin classes and electrical generation. I'm not sure I'm quite there, but thank you for your creative idea. Hello?
I'm sorry, 30 seconds, please, from John Brinkley.
Yeah, I go back to, we need to establish a process for developing good ideas, critically analyzing them, and then implementing them. We can pay our producers, our non-paid producers, once we have the funds to do that, but that would all be in the planning. of the expansion and growth of the station.
All right, thank you. Let's hear from John Hoffmann next. 30 seconds to respond. I believe the question was asking something about the lawsuits against WBAI. What are they?
Amongst other things, yes. I'm going to kind of answer the unpaid or paying more to the staff question. And again, I think the station board needs to develop a plan as to how they wish to proceed. And I think the components of that plan, I think everyone pretty much agrees, would be to grow the audience, which in turn would result in more effective or better fundraising efforts, and then grants.
Thank you. Scottye next. Please unmute, Scottye. You have 30 seconds to respond to this question, the caller.
To my knowledge, the lawsuits aren't against WBAI, they're against Pacifica. So as far as I know, there are no lawsuits against WBAI currently. And in terms of an innovative idea to create more electricity to save us money, of course, that's why we want to have more outreach to the community, because community has ideas that will help us, as well as the ideas we will generate together as we proceed, if Indy Slate gets onto the board.
Okay. All right, Sarah, if you can respond to this caller.
Yeah, the courts are a double-edged sword, because anybody can file a suit. A lawsuit was how we got control of BAI back in 2019. So it's a double-edged sword. I'm not privy to the details of all lawsuits that are underway right now. There are, I think, there's more than one. Spin classes, sure, why not? It actually is the way of the future to generate electricity locally. But paying unpaid staff is possible with grants that provide stipends.
Thank you. I think we're ready to hear from the next listener caller.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi. I looked at the Indy slate and Justice and Unity slate, and I noticed that the Indy slate is virtually all white, and the Justice and Unity slate is majority people of color, though it's diverse. And so my question is, what is your position on critical race theory and Gary Null's recent attacks on critical race theory?
Thank you for your question. We'll start this time with John Brinkley, 30 seconds.
I think I discussed this with a friend of mine. I think it should have been called critical race analysis, because it does look at the history of racism in the United States. And I think that it would be good if it was included in the curriculum in an appropriate way throughout our educational system, because it's an analysis of how we got to where we are and how things have evolved. So critical race theory, I call it critical race analysis.
All right. Thank you. We'll hear from John Hoffmann.
Okay, thank you. I guess I would say this, for me personally, and I think this is a personal question to some degree, I think that was the intent of the caller, that I am very open to different points of view. I do not feel like I'm pigeonholed into one group or kind of racial group even versus another. And I think that everybody should come to the local station board with very open minds and ideas.
All right. Scottye, you have 30 seconds to respond to this questioner.
Yes, as far as I know, I mean, I'm not white. I know you said mostly, but the revolutionary spirit does not have anything to do with color. It is important that we discuss critical race theory without attacking each other.
Sarah.
Yes, in my opinion, what's being called critical race theory is truth-telling about the history of the United States. It is extremely disturbing that teachers are being censored in states across the U.S. Now, some folks on the left, who I consider friends and allies, are opposed to paying special attention to issues of race. I disagree with that. I think that the history of the descendants of enslaved Africans in the U.S. must be acknowledged and confronted.
Thank you, Sarah. And finally, to address this question, we'll hear from Benjamin.
Sure. I think there's two sides of the coin. I don't have children in schools where critical race theory is being taught. I agree with its place in the schools because it tells us how we got to where we are. At the same time, I know Gary Null's viewpoints on authors like Robin DiAngelo, and I think there's some validity to what he says. People are individuals and they have their own experience. If somebody working for a large municipal public school system does not feel that they need that it's mandatory that they should be forced to train to attend a training in critical race theory because of their personal experiences, that's their opinion. I think there's validity to it.
All right. Thank you. I believe we have time for one more listener caller question.
Hello?
Yes, hello. Welcome to the debate.
Greetings to the beloved community. I just need to preference my question briefly. WBAI used to have producers that, and LSV and every other committee member with publish emails and voicemail phone numbers. So somehow, there's such a profound disconnection from the community, something called report to the listener / report from the listener, all the call-ins and listeners and discussing when we're at a time of fascism. If you don't understand white supremacy, patriarchy, everything else, capitalist imperialism, everything else will confuse you. That's the way Bell Hooks said it. So my question is that we are in dangerous times. This is called fascism per Professor Stanley, how fashion works, the politics of us and them. So I need to hear some ways. And Sarah, those crank radios also have a solar panel, too. So I would like to hear, in dangerous times where the country is unraveling and where Emmanuel Goldstein's, all of us, as it were, from 1984, how do we save a station where basic democracy, transparency, and integrity has been lost? Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. So we'll start with John Hoffmann to respond to this listener.
Okay, thank you. I believe there are still reports to the listeners. I think I heard one like in the last couple months, and I find them very informative personally to help me to kind of understand what's going on. I've also attended via Zoom station board meetings, and they're publicized as well. But to answer the other question, about in times of fascism, how should we proceed, right? We have to address that through programming and diverse programming and open and honest programming. That's the mission of WBAI after all is said and done.
All right. Next will be Scottye. Scottye, you need to unmute. We can't hear you. Unmute.
Trying. We are in a precarious time, and producers are able to share on their own social media as well. We are not going to allow the us versus them narrative to continue. We are one as a society, and we are all pushing toward becoming closer to that understanding. And we have to continue to make sure that our programs are supporting this and noticing when they're not and giving them feedback to help them, support them in that equality.
Thank you. Sarah, 30 seconds, please.
Yes, a crucial question, a historic question. And one suggestion is to rely on listeners, again, to promote the station, provide a printable PDF and for folks to print themselves and distribute in their neighborhoods. Also, a video which can be distributed on social media, which highlights BAI shows. Producers can select 15-second excerpts from their programs that convey the value of the program.
Thank you. Benjamin?
I'm sorry, can you paraphrase the question?
How do we save the station, WBAI, in these times of fascism?
Okay, I think it's just a matter of program diversity and emphasizing free speech. That's what WBAI has done. You know, it's free speech radio, it's pacifist radio. So we fight fascism with our values.
All right, and finally, John Brinkley.
Yeah, I think that BAI is the perfect place where we fight back against fascism by allowing free dialogue, as long as you don't say those 7, prohibited words. And we have open discussion. We need to encourage our programmers and producers to have more time for listener input. But I think BAI and a few other stations are the last places where there is that open and free dialogue, and we need to encourage it and expand it.
Thank you all. Since we've had such a robust discussion, we have only 45 seconds each, which we can permit for the closing statements. It's live radio, we need to finish on time. So Scottye, you will be first, and you have 45 seconds for your closing statement. Scottye, we can't hear you.
Peace and justice. The Indy slate will push for a peaceful, collaborative spirit of innovation without attacking each other, with making sure we bring into fruition the ideas that maybe have been suggested in the past but have not been made possible. My name is Scottye Battle, and I give hope to the future generation of this station, which will inherit the work we put into it to make it what it could be.
Thank you. Thank you. John Hoffmann, you have 45 seconds.
Okay, thank you. I hope during today's debate, and I want to thank all the listeners and the fellow participants, I hope that my passion about the station and its mission came across. I really want to devote my talents and abilities in the financial world to help build on the foundation that the station has embarked on in terms of adding stability, which I think will grow the audience in the future. Please check out my profile. I endorse the Indy slate as well. And thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you. John Brinkley?
Yes, why vote for me and the Justice and Unity team? Well, I worked within organizations and across organizations all my adult life, both in leadership and support roles. These organizations have a positive track record of getting things done, like getting a free WBAI billboard on the New Jersey Turnpike, near exit 18. I can work with those who I may disagree with, as long as it is about strategy to achieve a goal that we agree upon. This has happened when we jointly responded to defeat the referendum that would do away with the local boards and eventually lead to the selling of WBAI. We defeated that. Previously, we developed a comprehensive sustainability plan. We can do it again. We did it before, we can do it again.
Thank you, Benjamin. And Sarah Klepner, you have 45 seconds.
That was John Brinkley, not Benjamin.
I'm sorry. Sarah?
Yeah, it's not an exaggeration to say that BAI can help save the world by mobilizing progressive people throughout the tri-state area to defend each other and the people of the world in the face of heightening climate catastrophe and extractive capitalism and militarism. We must rely on the listeners to publicize the existence of BAI, to connect us to community organizations across the city, to carry out needs assessments and organize powerful town hall meetings and build listenership. Contact me at sarah@justiceunity.org. That's SARAH @justiceunity.org. Thank you.
right, thank you. And Benjamin, 45.
Sure. Sure. Again, I think WBAI is singular, and it would be a shame to see the ship sink. You know, it was pretty devastating to me when I turned on 99.5 for that couple of months and heard nothing on the other end. So I'm here because I think we can do more. I think we are operating at slightly under capacity. We can make an honest effort, an earnest effort to get out and advertise and promote our station and promote our programs and attract new hosts and attract new listeners. And I hope to be able to do that on the local station board. Thanks.
Thank you. And thank you all for listening to WBAI's debate series for the 2021 Local Board Delegate Elections. I am Kate Doran with the League of Women Voters of the City of New York. Today, this afternoon, we were joined by Scottye Battle, John Hoffmann, John Brinkley, Benjamin Garron Caine, and Sarah Klepner. Visit elections.pacifica.org for all your questions and to file a ballot request form. Make sure to cast your ballot before 11:59 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, October 15th, 2021. Thank you very, very much.
Namaste.